On this episode of Game Shack, Arcade1up just leaked their newest design for their Mortal Kombat machine. I'm going to tell you guys my opinion about it, talk a little bit about the negative reaction I've seen to it, and what this means for Arcade1up moving forward. All that and more coming up next. Hey everybody, welcome on back into the Game Shack. I'm your host JDV for Evil Genius Entertainment. Thanks for stopping on by. If you're new here, we review home arcade stuff, but we also do things like Magic Gathering, D&D, a host of other kind of games that you might be interested in. In March, I'm going to have a whole bunch of reviews coming out, including my 1-year review of AtGames 4KP pinball machine, their control panel, GRS's Build-A-Cade, their joystick, and also the X Arcade. So anyway, a slew of new reviews are coming out here in the next couple of weeks, so keep your eyes peeled open for those. If you want to get notification when those videos drop, please subscribe and like if you dig this kind of content. So if you're a fan of home arcade products, you probably have already seen the leaked picture of the Arcade1up Mortal Kombat 2, I guess their newest cab, which of course isn't really a new cab at all. In fact, it actually has one less game than previous versions of Mortal Kombat did. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And anyway, there's been a lot of negative reaction to this cab for good reasons. Essentially, the way the cab looks, it has one less game, and it has a 16:9 screen instead of a more traditional square type aspect ratio that they have put out before. And so there's already videos out, Arcade1up is dead, they're not dead, they're dead. Well, I would just say this in defense of Arcade1up, or at least in terms of what their business strategy is, and that is clearly they do not care about this sect of home arcade enthusiasts. They just don't. I watched Michael B's video the other day on this subject, and I was shocked when he said in that video that Arcade1up no longer responds to his emails. They don't reach out to him, they don't talk to him, anything like that. And that to me is shocking because of course he is a great home arcade enthusiast YouTuber anyway. And B, he's been a solid defender of that company and somebody who's bought 20 plus cabs, I think, from that company over the years. And I think he's been very fair to them. So for them to not continue to talk to a guy like Michael B, I think speaks volumes about where their headspace is in terms of who they are aiming their products at. Their business strategy is clearly, and has been for some time now under the new management, that they don't care so much what home arcade enthusiasts think about or care about or like or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure they'd like us to buy those cabinets and everything, but they're not going to bend over backwards for us at all, as indicated by kind of the cabs that they've put out in the last couple of years and the sort of a drying up of response to people who have been traditional supporters of them, guys like Michael B. And well, I think this cab is an obvious step backwards. They should be adding games, not subtracting games, although I can see why you take a game like Tubin off of this cab because it's a vertical game, which is already going to be challenged even on a more traditional aspect ratio, but really challenged on a 16:9. They could have brought in bezels. The art is not great, borderline terrible. Doesn't look like it has a lit marquee and doesn't have cooling doors. I don't think it has a riser. So there are a lot of problems with that cab. So you got to do what you got to do, right? And that's going to make a lot of hardcore enthusiasts upset. But if it's that or go out of business, then they don't have a lot of choice. And the main thing that I would remind people who are enthusiasts of Arcade1up and home arcade products of is that the current management was not the team that decided to go all in on NFL Blitz and Simpsons. And it's primarily those two cabs which sank Arcade1up from the heights that they were during the COVID pandemic down to where they are now. The current management was not the one that ordered tens of thousands of those cabs that even now are sitting on shelves in various warehouses. Heck, I think you can still buy Simpsons and NFL Blitz new, even though we've seen a game like Blitz on sale at Ollie's for $2.99. They still have these things in warehouses. They are still available new in box from the various places that you can get these products, which means that they over-ordered by a magnitude of thousands, maybe tens of thousands of cabinets. Also, Dan Marino wasn't free. The other, Chris Carter, some of the other NFL players that they got to show playing the game and endorsing the game when it first dropped, that cost them tens of thousands of dollars, heck, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars. So does this mean Arcade1up is dead? No, it probably doesn't. It probably means that they are going to be able to survive, but as a much smaller company, as a company that does not issue out new titles ever. I mean, you're going to see Pac-Man, you're going to see Galaga, you're going to see Mortal Kombat, but that's it. The fact that Iconic Arcade has the Street Fighter games, to me, is an indication that you're probably never going to see a new version of Street Fighter come from Arcade1up. That's probably gone, right? The fact that AtGames has the Zen tables, including apparently the Star Wars tables coming out in 2025, means that that is completely dead to them as well, and maybe all Disney things moving forward. Don't know that for sure, but it's a fairly safe bet. Hopefully they'll at least give us the option to extend out the screen for those horizontal games. I'm not an aspect ratio purist, so all the time on my AtGames, if I'm playing a game, I almost always will stretch it out, even if that's not arcade accurate. As long as it's not ridiculous, I would rather see the whole, whole screen filled up with the playfield as opposed to, seeing the little bezels. If they allow us to do that, then I think that, at least to me, is a little bit better in that 16:9. If, however, they don't allow us to change the aspect ratio, I think that is a really big negative. And I think another huge negative on the cab is the fact that we're seeing fewer games. We need to see more games. I've been a huge proponent for years now on all of these arcade machines having at least 20 games. Clearly, it's not aimed at the home arcade enthusiast. It is aimed at the John Q public, so to speak. I can't really condemn them for it, but I do think that they could make these cabs more appealing by putting more games on there and at least giving us control over the aspect ratio. Fingers crossed it at least does that. I guess we'll know more as time passes, but I think the bottom line is that you're just going to see a very much smaller company in Arcade1up. They're just not ever going to see what they saw during the pandemic. That's understandable. The industry, so to speak, kind of hit its maximum, and all games, video games, any kind of game has its peaks and valleys. Pinball has had its peaks and valleys. You've seen them up high, down low. Right now they're kind of at a high. They have crashed before. So, I mean, this is just an industry in particular that suffers when the economy is down, and the economy, of course, is still down. Inflation is still white hot. So I hope that they stick around and maybe at some point in the future do give us new titles, but it's just not something that I don't think any of us should expect moving forward. They might give us slightly new designs, but they're going to be the same titles. I do hope, though, that they at least let us change that aspect ratio and come out with more titles, maybe even add a la carte buying the way that AtGames does, which I think is a really, really solid business model. All right, well, let me know down below what you guys think. I'm guessing you don't like this design and don't like the 16:9 screen, and you don't like the art, and you don't like a lot of things about it. But do you understand why they're doing it? And do you agree with me that this is not all of the current management's fault? They were saddled with a huge amount of, say, albatrosses around their neck in the form of NFL Blitz and Simpsons and some other cabs like T2. Those have kind of sold out, but Blitz is still out there, man. So I don't know. Let me know down below what you guys think. I really do enjoy talking to you guys. You're very well informed and usually more than me. All right, that's going to wrap up this episode. So anyway, be sure to like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. I do have a lot of reviews coming out here starting in the next couple of weeks, so keep your eyes open for that. All right, love each other, and I'll see you guys again in the Game Shack. Mwah!
Be sure to visit evilgeniusentertainment.com for exclusive content, swag, casting call news, and much, much more.